Hey, it's Jordan with TYT Network. I'm here on a wonderful Monday with Benjamin Dixon. He's host of the Benjamin Dixon Show. And I've wanted to talk to you for a while, but obviously I have a good reason now. One of my real passion projects is slamming the mainstream media. Most of the time for political laziness, framing things in terms of the horse race rather than actually covering issues and what people are dealing with. And in the wake of the, tragic shootings last week of Alton, Philando, Castile, and then right after that you had 5 Dallas police officers shot and killed. You saw the media initially doing a decent job covering what's been obvious to African Americans, which is police brutality. But then as soon as this Dallas thing happened, which obviously should be covered, it was almost like they couldn't chew and walk, chew gum and walk at the same time. You see them really, the focus in the last few days has not been, at least what I could see, as much on the police brutality against African Americans, but now the brutality against what they're framing is against cops. And icing on the cake has been putting known race baiters on, like Rudy Giuliani. And CNN has an analyst named Harry Houck, who today says, African Americans are more likely to be criminals. I give you the floor.
That's a hell of a place to give me the floor on. No, the media is very, they can't multitask. That's because it's very easy to put a narrative that's convenient for whatever audience is listening to you for that day or for that week. And when it was about Black Lives Matter and the police white officer killing a black man or 2 black men this week, it was very easy to just discuss that because they know a lot of their audience are going to be from the black community or people who are pro Black Lives Matter. And then dead smack in the middle of this all was the very tragic events in Dallas. So now the media is having to multitask 2 different audiences and try to address the issues from 2 different audiences. And this is probably one of the most difficult situations to discuss in a very fair and balanced way from both perspectives. I will give it to at least CNN, which is going to be odd. I'd normally give CNN hell, but they have been struggling. They haven't done a great job, but you can see them actually struggling to try to present both sides of the trauma, the people who have been hurt on both sides. They at least put forth that effort. But then, some of the other outlets are not even doing a decent job of trying.
Right. Well, one thing I find interesting, we both know the media has a short attention span. So as soon as something else pops up, the Baton Rouge and Minnesota shootings seem less interesting. But now that police brutality and African Americans speaking out is a lot louder, you would think that they might have time or find an interest in reporting and telling some of the other cases that have happened just this year. I mean, we know about the high-profile cases like Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Eric Garner, but I was expecting kind of, both TV and digitally to tell us more about, all right, now that it's back in the news and these 2 seem to be different, let's talk about some other instances that are either, in courts or have happened and there's, the families are filing actions. I don't know about you. I haven't seen much of that.
So one of the cases that really dropped off the radar was a friend of mine who was killed by police officers, Corey Jones, in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. I actually knew Corey for 10, maybe 15 years. I lost track. That fell completely off the radar. And one of the reasons this happens so often is if there's not a video of it, then there's a good chance it cannot be as sensationalized or driven for clicks, for one. And then for 2, we have a tendency to only pay attention to the most extreme examples, things that can drive our emotions very much so. And so without either a video or an extreme example, the case, and there's so many names, so I can't even remember all the names, but the case out of North Carolina where the officer shot the black man, Walter Scott, came back to me like 5 times in the back, something ridiculous. Even though that was an extreme case, it was almost like an open and closed case, at least for the charges. If there's nothing really divisive or something that can drive a media narrative or a video that is as extreme as we saw this week, then the media really doesn't have the desire, I believe, to keep a systematic focus on the systemic oppression, if you would.
Right. And I think the video thing is very important because, let's be real, if there was no video in the Philando Castile case, there's no case.
Absolutely.
Cops would have painted it however they wanted to. Does this mean that in addition to African Americans having, I don't know if you have kids or whatever, having to have the discussion with their kids about how you versus me have to act and talk around a police officer, are we going to have to make sure that they carry around special video equipment from now on? I mean,
yeah. I mean, it's a sad. I mean, I'm laughing, but it's a really. I'm laughing because you have to choose how you want to handle a situation, and I've chosen on many occasions to just say yes, sir, no, sir, and not because that's the right thing to do. We should not have to address our police officers as sir and ma'am just to feel like we need to survive. But sometimes that's what we do. And I'm sitting there and wondering, like, OK, how am I going to handle this situation this time? Am I going to just say yes, sir, no, sir, and be like, hey, how was your day, officer, officer friendly, and try to make friends with this guy? Or am I going to take his cues? Because I've also had officers come up to me and be extremely aggressive, extremely condescending. And I'm wondering in my mind, am I going to return in kind? And you have to make a conscious decision. OK, if I return in kind, this could go south. But if I don't return in kind, then I'm dying on the inside. Right. I'm not asserting my right to be an autonomous human being that deserves equal respect on equal footing. In terms of my kids, I do have 2 kids. My son is 5. So thankfully, I have a long time before he has to actually drive. Hopefully we'll have automated cars by then. But we have to have that conversation. We have to, and we have to let them know that you may have an opportunity to make nice with a police officer, but you also have to realize that even if you make nice with some police officers, that's not going to always be the best scenario. It's not always going to play out the way that we would hope. So you have these conversations, you teach them to be as respectful as they can, but also be cognizant of the fact that sometimes your respect is just going to be thrown back in your face. So what do? I don't know, Jordan.
Right.
We're still trying to figure that out.
You know, something that's interesting to me, there's been a lot of talk about police training. And Chuck Todd, of all people, said something very profound. You don't usually hear that out of me. But he was on Morning Joe and he said, how do you train someone not to have hate and prejudice in their heart? It's not something you could train or retrain. You know, I'm not a police officer, but I've spoken with officers who say, yeah, you know, we were talked to after Trayvon and Michael Brown, but there's really not a specific retraining that's gone into place. Do you think that retraining and training is the answer? Or do you think there's some psychological testing that needs to come into place going forward upon hiring? It's the whole damn system, Jordan. It's everything. It's not just the police officers, right? It's the structure around them that protects them and does everything it can to err on their side. If there's going to be an error made in these cases, it's always going to be in favor of the police officers generally. We give them the benefit of the doubt so that they can have the leeway to do their jobs. But a lot of times that becomes detrimental to cases on a case-by-case basis. So it's not just the training, it's the system around it. And if I can borrow from Mark Lamont Hill, who said that the entire society and the perception of blackness has to change because we shouldn't, you know, me as an individual, I shouldn't have to jump through hurdles and hoops just to be on equal footing when I get stopped by the police. I shouldn't have to be extra nice. I should just be able to be like, hey, what's up, officer? Or whatever I want to say to the, you know, I should be able to start on the same level footing. But what happens is a lot of officers, black and white, Hispanic and other, they come into the conversation already with a preconceived notion of potential criminality based on statistics. And then now, because of those perceived notions of criminality based on statistics, they're more biased towards us. And then they increase the occasions, the instances that we are absorbed into the criminal justice system, thereby overinflating those statistics. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so if we don't have a societal shift where we are able to start on equal footing, treat us as a human being. Before you see a color, treat us as a human being. Until we change that, we're going to be fighting this forever. And last question. Obviously, you're big in the African American community and media. What's different about these two cases? Are people feeling like there might be a turning point or a tipping point coming?
Well, I mean, I'm not necessarily, not necessarily big, but
Okay.
I appreciate it. I appreciate that. We're working on it. Is there a change? I think it is a level of absurdity, especially with the Philando Castile case.
He's licensed. He's licensed to carry. He was trying to get out his ID and his wallet out his pocket, and he let the officer know that he had a firearm and he was reaching for his wallet.
It was just so absurd. The portion that we saw in and of itself was absurd. And I think it's almost undeniable, almost like the March in Selma, where for the first time America saw just how ridiculous King and all of the protesters were treated. I think we finally hit a point of critical mass where this is absurd. Now, how many times do people have to see this? Because we've become so desensitized and we see it so often that I really question of whether or not how long this absurdity and this feeling of absurdity will even last. Will it last long enough for us to actually affect change, or will we shift to the next case because there was another case, over the weekend?
Right.
I don't know.
Well, we'll keep on it, and you're just as big as anybody else in my view. So keep going.
Appreciate it, Jordan.
All right. Take care, man. Thanks a lot.